Are you a woman in the corporate world, striving to break barriers, challenge unconscious bias, and lead the way for women in leadership roles globally? If so, this is the podcast for you. Introducing Leading Ladies Who Lunch. The lunch hour is usually the time when colleagues get together for real, honest conversations about work, life, and everything in between. In each episode of Leading Ladies Who Lunch, we'll delve into insightful discussions and share actionable strategies to help you navigate corporate life. Co-hosted by me, Cece George, a leadership development architect and inspirational speaker. I'm thrilled to share my experience and expertise on leadership, mentorship, and organizational intelligence to help you own your career.
And me, Rachel Lowndes, CEO and founder, imposter syndrome expert, and mindset coach at Rachel Lowndes Coaching and Consulting. Passionate about helping women conquer imposter syndrome and unleash their inner confidence to get the recognition and promotions they deserve.
Jam-packed with insightful conversations, expert advice, and inspiring stories from a diverse group, we'll explore how to overcome obstacles, shatter those glass ceilings, and build unshakable mindsets to unlock your true potential. So whether you're sipping a coffee or enjoying a meal at your desk, tune in for a no-host bar lunchtime chat. Episodes will be dropped every 2 weeks. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Leading Ladies Who Lunch, empowering women, one conversation at a time. Welcome back to the Leading Ladies Who Lunch podcast. This week, we are joined by best-selling author, founder of the Brave Woman Program, and trailblazer in high-performance leadership, Sheila Vijeyarasa. Sheila's mission is to guide leaders to courageously navigate challenges, redefine leadership with authenticity, and inspire transformation at every level. With decades of experience as a finance and commercial director, Sheila brings a unique blend of corporate strategy and spiritual depth, refined through years of leadership coaching and hands-on executive experience. An internationally best-selling author of Brave, Courageously Live Your Life, Sheila has been recognized as a pioneering voice in conscious leadership. Her book offers a roadmap for those seeking a genuine, value-driven approach to success, and her insights have appeared in Thrive Global, Sydney Morning Herald, CEO World Magazine, Body and Soul, and much more. Sheila's strategies and profound understanding of high-performance leadership have reached audiences on global conference stages internationally. Sheila also appeared on the Australian television show Big Miracles, where she courageously shared her IVF journey across 3 seasons, inspiring millions of viewers to embrace resilience and authenticity in their own lives. Her own leadership and life transformation stands as a testament to the power of brave living. So welcome, Sheila. We are so delighted to speak to you today and talk more about the Brave Woman Foundation and your recent book.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Sissy. It's so wonderful to be here today.
I am really looking forward to this conversation. I mean, just hearing your bio and doing a little bit of research, this is really going to be a really insightful episode. So again, thank you for joining.
Sure is. Now, I first saw you, Sheila, on the Big Miracles show, as I myself have been through IVF. And unlike yourself, Sheila, who now has an amazing son, Phoenix, my journey with IVF didn't end with a baby. And I've always wanted to meet Sheila, having watched her on the show. And by chance, we were at the same book launch a few months ago, and we just hit it off. And now here she is, a guest on the show today. So, Sheila, let's kick off with perhaps you telling us a little bit about your background and what was it that inspired you to create the Brave Woman Foundation?
So I am an ex-finance director. I'm a chartered accountant, and I came from, I guess, a background and upbringing where success looked a certain way. It was really about achieving milestones, getting to a certain position in my career, earning a certain income level, having a job title, blah, blah, blah. And probably a lot of women can relate to this. But as my career progressed, I had this feeling and a knowing that there's something else that I was meant to do with my life. And perfectionism, started to float to the surface, the people pleasing, the lack of boundaries, the fear of disappointing those around me. And because of that, I remained stuck for many years. I eventually got brave and I quit my job and wrote my first book, Brave, and started to study spiritual modalities, coaching modalities, started to invest a lot in self-healing. I went on a big healing path myself. And I ended up doing what I'm doing now, which is motivational speaking, corporate training, mentoring, and I formed the Brave Woman Academy, of which the Brave Woman program is part of that. And I've launched also Brave through IVF recently,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about. So I'm passionate about being brave because I don't think I would have made the changes in my life unless I had summoned up a lot of courage,
Mm.
because I was so stuck and so egoically connected to my old life. I had to get very courageous to leave that behind and set off sort of in a new path.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I mean, bravery is such a cool kind of concept, isn't it? I talk about bravery a lot because, for me, it's like people tell you to be confident, but like, what does that really mean? But I actually say, like, we don't have to be confident, but we can be brave. Like, we know how to be brave. If someone said to me, could you find a little bit of bravery to do this right now? The answer is probably yes. Like, I could.
Mm.
So, like telling people to be confident is always going to be a bit of a challenge, I think, isn't it? So good on you, like taking those brave, bold steps.
Well, we're only ever confident for a period of time until we go back into our growth zone, our discomfort zone,
Mm,
and we're out there setting our sights on our next milestone, the next thing, on our vision board, or the next experience we want to have. So I don't think we're ever. I think if we're really up for the game of transformation, the first thing is we're not going to spend that long in our comfort zone. So we're going to possibly feel lack confidence more than have confidence. And so, I speak on stages, and the stages are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And every time I'm like, oh, far out, this is a new crowd. It's a bigger crowd. It's a group that I'm not used to, because I'm very, my safe zone is the women in leadership space. But every time I do it, instead of trying to find confidence, I'm like, I just summon up more bravery and connect
Mm.
more to purpose. And that gets me on the stage doing what I do. So you're right. I don't think we need confidence. Confidence comes with action, and
mhm.
action comes with bravery.
Yeah.
Very well said. I really, that point exactly has sort of been my journey the last couple of years. I used to put a lot of my value in what others had to say about me. So if I worked for someone who didn't think very highly of me, I thought, well, that person is in X position. They must know better. Then maybe that's who I am. And once I learned to dispel the fact that their opinion was just an opinion, that actually gave me the confidence I needed, because I didn't see them as this otherworldly thing. They were just a person just like me.
Mm,
And knowing that I don't have to take stock in other people's opinions of me for me to be who I am and to go into the world and portray my best self gave me that confidence. And that's why I'm curious, when you, in your book, The Power of Little Steps, you talk about taking small, very intentional actions that lead to major transformations. I mean, for me, letting go of someone's opinion of me was one small step to bring me to confidence, or to move me to being more brave. But can you share with us an example of how one of your little steps led to a major transformation in your life, and then how that has shaped the message that you now share with other people?
Yeah, beautiful question. I think there's several things I've done. There's probably two major moments, but the major moments in my life, the big step, and then I'll talk about the little steps. The big step was quitting my corporate executive role when I was a finance director at Simon and Schuster. I finally made it to the C-suite. I'd been there for several years, and then my heart was like, no, it's time to quit and create this whole new career, being a mentor and a coach and a speaker and an author. The second big step I made was to become a donor mother. I'd done 7 rounds of IVF over 2 years. My eggs quality was low because I was 46 years old, and I decided to buy eggs from an American donor in the US, and now I have a son. They're the big steps. But the little brave acts, Sissy, that you're talking about, which I talk about in my new book, The Power of Little Steps, my little step was 7 months prior to quitting my job. I had a quiet conversation with the universe, with my own mentor at the time, and I got an Excel spreadsheet out. And I was like, how much do I need to save to live off if I quit my job to get myself up and running? With the donor egg, well before I decided, well before I was ready to be a donor mum, I logged on to this website that had donor eggs, and I started to look at donor options well before I was ready. So I think the little steps we take before we're ready get us ready for that big grand moment where everyone goes, wow, you're so courageous. And I say quietly, I was courageous 5 months ago at midnight, logging onto this website and starting to think, wonder if I should do donor eggs. That's the brave moment, the quiet moments that are the little steps that actually prepare us for the big leap eventually.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love
Beautiful.
that. I think that's also like it's a bit of self-preservation though, isn't it? It's like because obviously you really wanted to have a child, which, and obviously women do feel that, a lot of women, not every woman, but you were clearly like, what do I need to do in order for me to achieve the goal that I really want to achieve? And, like having that honest conversation with you about, well, my eggs aren't good enough. I've got to accept that. That's a brave act in itself, because that's a really hard thing to accept, right? Having gone through that journey myself, like I didn't go donor egg because I would need donor sperm as well. So for me, that was like, you've got a partner. So that means your partner you've got that kind of network. But for me, I was like, no, that's not what I want to do. But that's even just having that admittance of, I've got to accept that maybe my eggs aren't gonna cut it, so I'm gonna have to become a donor mum, and what does that mean? Um, so yeah, great. I love that, those quiet little moments where you're making those brave little steps that maybe you're not even identifying or recognizing, right? And
Right.
then
Absolutely.
yeah. And I love what you said before about, each time you speak, you've got a bigger audience. And you're even embodying that whole bravery mantra every time you do something. You're having to like step up and embrace even more bravery in every moment. So you are a living, breathing example of bravery.
Love
I think
it.
it's my dharma and my karma. I think, for anyone that's a coach out there, whatever your word is, that is what you will live and you'll teach through. So if you're the expert in kindness, you might experience a lack of kindness, the polarity to keep on learning kindness to teach it. So
Yeah.
I think it was quite amusing when my first book, Brave, came out. I dusted my hands off and I said, okay, universe, I've been brave. I've written the book. I can get on with my life. I think
Yeah.
the universe had a chuckle and said, no, you're about to be braver than you've ever known. You're about to go on a TV show and share your IVF journey publicly over 3 years and then become a donor mum, which is nothing you're prepared for and nothing you want to do. So I think the universe, I think we pull our destiny towards us. So whatever your word is, and sometimes people are like, I want to do that. I'm like, no, do this. This is what your expertise in, and this is what life is teaching you. So for me, was teaching me bravery in a big way. And I think we all need to learn bravery and kindness and mindfulness and all the different coaching concepts. But I think we all have one thing is our specialty because it's attached to our soul contract. And for me, it was being brave
I
and
love
showing
that.
people to be brave.
Yeah, that's a really powerful lesson. Your main keynote speech is about taking little brave
Mm,
acts,
yeah.
and that a high performance culture comes from brave leaders. Which I mean, I totally agree. Courage and bravery are essential when it comes to being a leader. So you kind of touched on brave little acts, like from a personal level there. So can you kind of talk about it in that more kind of corporate leadership career space, so that our listeners can learn how to apply that for themselves in that corporate setting?
Yeah, I do a lot of leadership and executive coaching to women in leadership specifically, and these are the things I've noticed I help women be brave in. The first is speaking up in a meeting.
Mm.
So quite often they get to meetings and they're very good technically. They've come ready with their notes and all their Excel spreadsheets and the reports. Someone else is speaking up and speaking to their work,
Mm.
or there's a conversation they can add to that they feel scared about getting it wrong, their voice shaking. So in my book, I've written about speak up even if your voice shakes. I used to have real nerves in my early 20s. My knees actually knocked when I spoke. I had to wear long skirts at university because you could see my shaking legs.
Oh,
And I
wow.
went and found coaches and mentors all the way back. I'm talking the 90s when it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
There weren't podcasts, there wasn't Facebook. And I don't even think there was an internet. I think I was like looking through the yellow pages trying to find someone to help me with my nerves. And I found people.
Yeah.
I asked teachers around me, And so my journey to being a speaker, I don't think people realize, was from I was proper scared, nervous, would sweat visibly in front of people. So I coach women to be brave and find your voice around any table, because that's where we have visibility and influence. And it's a little brave act in that next meeting, just to, just say, even put your hand up and say, I'd like to say something. It might feel awkward, but the next time will be easier and easier and easier. That's the first thing. The second little brave act is it's called the motherhood paradox, where we have full-time jobs and we turn up and pretend we don't have families, and then we go home and we pretend we don't have a job, and we're like juggling these balls and pretending one life it doesn't exist. What this life exists, the other doesn't. So a little brave act is having more boundaries at home and having more boundaries at work. Managing the mother's guilt that inevitably comes up when we're away from family. The next little brave act is learning high performance habits. So hyper focus. I'm flying next week to the Sunshine Coast for corporate training. I'm going to plan I'm away from my son for a night. I will be hyper focused and getting so much work done. So when I come back, I can be present with him. So their little brave acts rarely appear on social media. They're rarely glamorous, yet they're big game changers for how we live our life and the energy and vitality that we have as women.
Wow.
Great
And I'm
tip.
curious, what is some of the feedback that you've received from, women in leadership, seeing that you're out using your voice to speak up about these issues and raise awareness, but also provide these tools. What has some of the commentary been like for you?
I you know, the women love my coaching because it's so disruptive. I say the thing that I think other coaches sometimes don't. I think the whole coaching field is wonderful. I love anyone that's become a coach has obviously had a hard time to get there. It's coaches, we learn the big lessons. So respect to all coaches. But the women love my coaching because I'm so honest. When I coach women of color or brown women, I say, or Asian women, I say, look, we've come from a culture where speaking up is not normal. So you're going to find this harder than other women. So you're going to have to practice more, and this is going to be uncomfortable. I kind of push them off the cliff, but
Love
they
it.
come back to me and they're like, thank you. And I'm like, I know we are moving the dial through the coaching. So they love my honesty. They love my shotgun approach. They love that I've done it. I don't say anything I haven't done. I did get to C-suite in the finance industry as a brown woman, a woman. I was younger. I was 39 by the time I made it to CFO. And so they've seen I did do it. So I think they're kind of impressed. I did do it. I've written a book, written 2 books now. I've never written a book before. I've got on stages, and I'm a woman who doesn't speak about D&I. I don't speak about diversity and inclusion, even though I love the topic. I speak about bravery and resilience to everyone. And so I think women love that. They say to me, I loved what you've done. And the IVF thing is very inspiring to them. And I think, how do I manage being a mother to a 1-year-old? And so, look, I think I'm very lucky. I'm 49 this year. And I actually think this is the perfect age to have a child, even though my body's like, what are you doing? Because I have so much wisdom and I'm so much calmer than if I was 39 or 29 or 19. So I think my mind is ready as my body is lagging a little behind. So I think it's got a lot of wisdom for them, a lot of living proof that they can do it. And I think they borrow my belief in them while they're cultivating it themselves.
Well, that is the mark of a great leader. A great leader is one that shows you they believe in you more than you would believe in yourself, right? So really
Yes.
showing them that they have this confidence that you can conquer the world. That is the mark of a really great leader. And you're sort of you're making me think about this next part here, but you've talked about all the different audiences, and you've done obviously so much work with corporations and just all the stages you've been on. You've worked with all different kinds of leaders, and you might have had conversations with women or people who maybe shy away from taking on leadership roles. You were in a leadership role yourself, and Rachel and I have talked about why people might be avoiding leadership roles. But what patterns are you seeing with women who may be holding themselves back from pursuit or from advancing in their career or taking on more of a high visible leadership role? And what can you offer them in terms of advice?
Yeah, there's several patterns I see. I see women in their 30s or early 40s with young kids, possibly two or three children, mostly two children. They're in primary school, and there's this belief I just am scared to change jobs, even though I'm unhappy in this one, because the kids need me and I have freedom in this job. And I say to them, you don't have freedom, you're miserable. So
Mm.
that's not freedom. And then the counsel I give, firstly, you're going to be happier and freer in the next job. And the disruption you think in the new job is only about 12 weeks.
Yeah.
New job, you're in a learning curve for about 3 months, and then you tend to settle into the role. And
Yeah.
our job is to land, learn fast, and for those 3 months, enroll your husband, get some extra help after school care, nanny, whatever it might be, just to get you through that hump, and then you'll be smooth sailing in your new role. So women and humans don't like transitions. We don't like change. Even though we're unhappy, we like it because we know it.
Very true.
So one big career advice, and I do a lot of transition work. Let's get you into the new job. Let's buffer and scaffold you in that transition phase. Let's integrate you, and let's have a 3-month plan so that you're flying in the new role. That's the first thing. Second thing is women going through fertility struggles. They,
Mhm.
it's we don't stop getting promotions and turning up to work just because we're going through IVF. How do we have so much self care during IVF that we can still show up in other ways? And then I'm
Right.
trying to think. There's a third one. The other challenge I think it's boundaries with husbands and wives, our partners. How do we have more honest conversations about division of labor? About,
Mm.
I need more support right now because I'm going through something difficult at work. So just a good old fashioned asking for help.
Yeah.
Sure.
Very
Makes
true.
sense. We're
Yeah.
very practical here.
Yeah.
Oh, very practical.
Yeah. And women do really struggle with like asking for help because we have this whole kind of thing, we've got to prove ourselves all the time. And I
Right.
love what you said there about, the compartmentalizing of we go to work and we pretend we don't have children or families, and we come home and we pretend we don't have jobs because we've got to slot into these different roles. I mean, I'm talking generally because I'm not a mum, but slot into these different roles because we have to like stop being the CFO, and now I've got to be a mum, and the two obviously don't merge that well. So it is quite challenging for women. And what you said about IVF and work there. I mean, I told my workplace they didn't support me at all, and it was a really, really difficult, challenging time. But I
Yeah.
think things are definitely changing now. But
I was
Mhm.
going to say, I love your voice, Rachel, about the woman who didn't become a mother not out of choice. I
mm,
nearly
Mhm.
went down that road, and I was prepared to.
mm,
I remember in the back of my mind thinking, well, if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be speaking in that space. I'm going to be in rooms with women
yeah,
speaking about what's the new journey. If we choose not to have children, or we end up free, childless, there's language around it, right? And
yeah,
how you educate people, and how I'm going to use the word rebrand ourselves,
yeah,
because I
Mm.
nearly went through. I mean, even some media outlets wrote Sheila invested in a career. That's why she missed out on having a child. And I thought I didn't invest in my career. I invested in so much healing. I invested in my career only because that was the only thing that loved me back. Because I
yeah,
couldn't find a man to love me back because I had dysfunctional trauma and limiting beliefs. So I didn't know if women always choose their career. It's because, you're intelligent, Sissy, you're intelligent, I'm intelligent. So inevitably our career ends up being successful. So we're
yeah,
going to invest in things that are succeeding around us. I don't know if women choose their career, which is things that work. And I spent 20 years doing healing work. Did
mm,
that delay things? Yes. However, the delay was needed to end up becoming who I was. It wasn't about being married and having a child. I love the version of me now
yeah.
because of all the work I've done.
That's amazing. And you
Beautiful.
make a really, really good point there about, the childlessness. Like, it's very easy to label women as, oh, you chose this over this, therefore
Mhm.
it's your fault you're not a mother, right? And that's the message, right? But at the end of the day, no one knows what goes on in your background.
Right.
Like, recently I posted for Mother's Day on the 10th of May, something on LinkedIn that went viral. And it was, I don't get to do Mother's Day because I didn't get to be a mother. And it's really like highlighting, the journey. And so many women resonated with that. You wouldn't believe how many people contacted me, Sheila. I could literally write a book about it. You know what
I
I mean?
think you should. I think you should, because there's such a,
Mm,
like I said, I speak to women. I'm running my breakthrough IVF program now, and most of the women are looking at donor options.
yeah,
And that's a long road, and even the donor has a misconception, or they go, "Oh, you're starting IVF, you're starting your fertility journey." And I thought, no, the fertility journey started 3 years ago or
yeah,
5 years ago.
yeah,
IVF is not the start of a fertility journey. IVF tends to be in the middle to the end of the fertility journey, and we're already fatigued by the moment we walk into
yeah.
the IVF clinic. And
Hmm.
that has to have an impact on our careers, our mental health, our relationships with our parents,
Yeah.
siblings that have children, or best friends that have children.
Mm.
So, women, we're strong, but our fertility journey quite often demands bravery from women.
Yeah.
Very
And
true.
I'm assuming, like, with your new program that you're kind of covering all those bases in terms of like, what does it really mean to get to IVF? You make a really important point there, because it isn't the start. It's usually the end. Like,
Yeah,
we don't choose to have children and go, right, I'm ready for a baby now, I'll just go and do IVF. No, that's usually the last call, isn't it? It's like, I've
yeah,
tried everything else. This is the last port of call.
yes, yes.
And it's like, you've really, I think with that childlessness message, it really is important to understand what women actually go through in order to get to that point.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I'd love to know a little bit more about your new program, Brave Through IVF, because I'm sure there's so many people listening right now who are
Oh, yeah.
experiencing.
Yeah, look, I tell you why I did it for IVF, and it's not a generic fertility program.
Mm,
There are a lot of fertility coaching programs out there, and a lot of those programs advocate falling pregnant naturally, which is a wonderful journey for many women.
yeah.
But the problem with those programs is when you embark on IVF, a lot of women said to me initially, "Oh, but you haven't given up trying to fall naturally." And I was like, "Yes, I have. I'm investing in IVF. This is the way I want to go."
Mm,
And but so there's a bit of shame that comes up with that question.
mm,
It's like, don't give up on this other better option, and then you're having to defend IVF. It's like, but no, I'm still doing IVF. Even when I went down the donor path, people around me said, but you haven't given up trying to have your own. And I said, yes, I have. I'm doing the donor egg now.
yeah.
And so my IVF program is about supporting you and empowering you during IVF. So it's mindset tools, it's resilience. We bring back self love. We're talking to our womb. There's a community. There's a lot of women pursuing donor eggs, donor sperm. There's a few single women in the group, with three in the group that are doing donor egg and donor sperm on their own.
Mm.
So this is a powerful group that you become part of. Somebody said it's the club you don't want to be in, but it's got the best people in it. Someone gave me that.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
it's it's like the last club you want to be in, but it's got the best members. It's that kind of club.
yeah,
Everyone's incredible in their story, so interesting. Every share, it's like, wow, you've been through that. So I'm just really impressed by the cohort. It's If you're doing IVF, you probably feel like you're doing it alone. Or the other thing is that I've counseled women to join the program is we're probably relying a little bit too much on a husband for support. So Tyson and
Mhm.
I went through that. He would look at me every morning and say, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine." And I wasn't.
mm,
I'd look at him and go, "Are you okay?" And he'd go, "Yeah, I'm fine." He wasn't. And so we both needed support outside of our marriage or relationship. And that is a program. So I wrote that so women constantly don't have to be leaning on a psychologist, once a week, or a husband or a best friend that probably is a bit tired of constantly hearing about IVF because they've probably got kids of their own and their own challenges. It's a group that you have support. So we've got a Facebook group. There's weekly calls with community, and there's all these like modules I've recorded where I've honestly shared the tools that got me through. And I've interviewed people to help them. Pure IVF, and it's donor program. There's donor resources there too.
I absolutely love
Wow.
that, because when I was going through this journey, I felt very, very isolated and very alone. And, even in the aftermath, I was like, there's literally no support for women like me. It's like, it's incredibly hard. So still get emotional about this. So do excuse me. But yeah, I felt so alone. And you get the call from the clinic and they go, sorry, you're not pregnant. And then bye. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
And you're just left on your own. I was like, my whole world was crumbling. I was at work at the time, and I was really like, where is the support? So for you to create such an amazing group where women like myself can get that support that they need, because I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't have a partner or anything. So yeah, fantastic. That is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, so Rachel, you're a strong woman. You really are for going through, and you've obviously got a sole purpose around talking about the women that didn't get that pathway forward.
Yeah, and that voice needs to come forward, because I would imagine, not having gone through it, but I would imagine if I was in that place that, I had my own challenges too. My first pregnancy was a miscarriage. I didn't feel like I could talk about that with my friends because they were already having babies. So I thought, also the misconception of, oh, you miscarried, what's wrong with you? Do you want the fertility doctor's number now? And it was just one miscarriage, but already I'm getting all these, oh, do you want to adopt now? Like, it was just one pregnancy, one miscarriage, and already I'm getting all these different narratives,
Yeah,
and it's confusing me, and not feeling I can actually talk about it with people because I felt like it should be hidden. So I would imagine that going through IVF, there's some similarity in feelings there about, oh, I don't know if I can talk about this broadly, and who would I share it with? Who would understand? But you have this community of people who go through it. They understand, they can all support each other. What a brave act.
I think I'm an accidental hero. I really am. A lot of women came, because I was on 3 seasons of this show. I thought we'd be on one. I didn't realize it'd be on a major television network. We were told it's just an exploratory documentary. When we were
Wow.
asked to go on it, we were asked. We didn't even put ourselves forward. So there's a real accidental hero in myself, and the other couples too. And a lot of the time, we were filmed, Rachel, at that moment when you get the call.
Yeah.
And you burst into tears. And so many women reached out to me on Instagram and said, oh my God, like what you've been through, I've been through.
Yeah.
And people said to me, because my family watched it and they realized that's what I went through. It's so hidden. It's so shrouded in silence and shame. We don't speak about it until we get the successful pregnancy. And then we go, oh, did you know I've been doing IVF for 2 years? And that's why I've been struggling. Well, that's 2 years of life lost. That's 2 years where we've struggled and no one could support us. And probably things did go backwards for those 2 years. And so, the more voices around IVF, childlessness, miscarriage, endometriosis, pre-pregnancy anxiety, postpartum depression, I think by the time you label all of those issues, you've got a net of 80 to 90% of women affected.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's
Easily.
like even the trailers for the show, the first season, I couldn't watch them. I was so triggered. I'd cry immediately. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not watching that show. I cannot do it. But eventually I brought myself to do it. But one of the things that probably isn't touched on as well, which I don't know if you do in your program, is the grief around the loss. Like having to be supported through what, you can't talk about the fact that you're grieving, because it's like, oh, you just didn't have a baby. And it's like, right, let's just unpack that a little bit.
That's saying that too. Cancel.
Like, don't understand, and
They don't understand,
they
yeah.
best, and they say things
Yeah.
like, meet my friend, they had twins from IVF. I remember that conversation, and I was thinking, no, I don't want to talk to them because my journey's not going that well, so
Yeah.
the
I think
insensitivity.
there's so many well-meaning friends and family, and I had to remind them that's their love language. Being positive and giving me extreme examples is their love language. Right now, that's not mine, and so it requires a lot of bravery to forgive or have compassion in the moment for a bit of advice that's just not landing. definitely you need to, there's so many forms of grief through IVF. There's grief every time you get a bleed or spotting. In that moment, before you even realize you're not pregnant, you're grieving because you started to dream. You started to think, what's my baby shower? Am I going to have a boy or a girl? What are the names? All that it's micro grief, like the mini griefs. Then you've got to get back on to the next round of IVF, and you don't even have a chance to process. So then as you go through cycle after cycle, you're collecting grief.
Yeah.
So eventually when you do grieve, it's a mountain of grief. You might have a job redundancy or a job loss during that time. So while you're going through a career grief, you're grieving IVF as well. So you've got multiple griefs. You might have mum being sick, having Alzheimer's or some issues like that. I've seen clients where I've got an ill mum and I'm doing IVF. You're grieving up mother and being a mother. Then when you become a donor, I had to grieve the biology and shame of letting my family down because they're not becoming grandparents to biological children. There's so many layers of grief that we have to process. So I studied grief. Back in the day, I was a medium. I'd connect to the other side, and I studied death and grief 10 years ago. I was fascinated with death as a concept. Do we live on? Is the soul eternal? So I'm a student of grief, and so when I went through IVF, I was very equipped to have grief, process grief myself.
Yeah.
And then with my students in the program, I've filmed modules about the different types of grief and how we get through them. So we definitely look at that.
Oh, that's amazing. I think that's so powerful. And I love what you just said about the love language thing. It's very easy to, just like you've got your feelings, you're so full of emotion, and all you're thinking about is, why are you saying this to me? When really, in reality, they are trying to help. And so I like that little reminder of the love language thing. That's fantastic. I really think your program sounds amazing. So Sheila, I wish you'd been around when I was going through IVF. Definitely would have engaged you, that's for sure. This has been such an amazing chat, Sheila. It's been really, really powerful and really, kind of opened up a lot of things that people probably don't ever think about or talk about. So thank you so much for coming on as a guest today, sharing all of your wisdom, inspiring women and women of colour all around the world to take those brave little acts, and sharing your program with us. How can people connect with you, get your book, look up your program?
Yeah, so the best way, follow me on Insta, then you can check out some of my content, Sheila _V_ on my website, SheilaV.co, or get my new book, The Power of Little Steps, out now. Buy from Amazon.
Love it. On Amazon. We'll put some links in the show notes to everyone. Yeah.
This was an amazing conversation. I'm walking away with so much inspiration and bravery, bravery to go on and do. So thank you for sharing your story, really, and the vulnerability in which you did that. Really, thank you.
I appreciate being on your podcast, ladies. You guys are doing powerful work in the world, and you are inspiring so many women as well. So real humbled to be here today.
Oh,
thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Leading Ladies Who Lunch podcast. If we could leave you with a thought, what is something you heard from our guest Sheila that has inspired you to take a little step that will lead to your big transformation? If you like this episode, we would be so grateful if you can share it with your friends and tag us on social media at Leading Ladies Who Lunch. Your reviews of this podcast mean so much to us. We'd love it if you can rate it and subscribe to the show.
Remember, you can find us and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. So subscribe to stay up to date with the latest episodes, and follow us on Instagram at Leading Ladies Who Lunch.
Stay tuned for another great episode in 2 weeks.
Until then, stay sassy. Thank you for joining us on the empowering journey at the Leading Ladies Who Lunch podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our insightful discussions, actionable strategies, and inspiring stories that we break down during each episode. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Leading Ladies Who Lunch on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And remember, the conversations you've heard on this podcast are just the beginning of your journey. Let your voice be heard, inspire change, and continue breaking barriers as you lead with authenticity, resilience, and unwavering determination.
Until next time, keep embracing your leadership potential, challenging the norms, and shaping a better world for women in the workplace. Leading Ladies Who Lunch, empowering women, changing lives.